It was supposed to be just another early morning shift for Angela Reyes, a 31-year-old trauma nurse at St. Joseph's Medical Center in downtown Los Angeles. The city hadn't slept, and neither had she. With dark circles under her eyes, a hospital ID badge clipped to her white scrub top, and a thermos of reheated coffee in her trembling hands, she stood in the chilled air of the Metrolink platform, waiting for the bus that would take her home. Her overnight shift had been brutal. 2 code blues, a patient flatlined in her arms, and a homeless veteran she'd comforted until his last breath. She was emotionally wrecked, but held together by sheer willpower. She just wanted to go home, take a shower, and call her mother back in Manila to hear her voice. But fate had other plans. Minutes later, as she crossed the street outside the bus terminal, a black and white LAPD cruiser suddenly pulled up beside her with a screech of tires. Officer Brock Donovan, a towering white cop with a buzz cut and mirrored sunglasses, jumped out aggressively. "Hey, stop right there!" he barked. Angela froze in confusion. She clutched her thermos tighter, visibly startled. "Excuse me?" she asked gently. "I'm just trying to get home." But Brock wasn't listening. "You match the description," he spat. "Female, Asian, possibly involved in a theft reported at the 7-Eleven nearby. Backpack, hoodie. Looks like you." He pointed at her navy blue hospital-issued backpack, filled with her scrubs, bandages, and snacks. Angela blinked, stunned. "I'm a nurse. I just got off a 12-hour shift. I have my ID right here." She reached slowly into her jacket to pull it out, but Brock stepped closer. "Hands where I can see them," he shouted, his hand resting on the butt of his taser. A few passers-by stopped and began filming with their phones. Among them was a teenage girl named Maya, who instantly started a TikTok live. "Y'all, look what's happening to this nurse. She didn't even do anything." The video began spreading within minutes. Angela stood motionless, breathing shallowly, her palms facing out. She repeated, "Please. I'm a nurse. You can call the hospital. My name is Angela Reyes, badge 701349. Brock wasn't interested in listening. "Stop resisting," he barked, twisting her around and slamming her against the hood of his cruiser. The crowd gasped. Maya's voice cracked on the live stream. "He's really arresting her? Bro, she didn't even move." Angela's hospital ID dangled from her chest as she was cuffed, the strap cutting into her wrist. Her phone clattered to the ground, the call to her mother never made. As the situation escalated, the stream hit 100,000 viewers within 20 minutes. The hashtags number Justice for Angela and number Nurse Not Criminal started trending on Twitter. Maya's clip was picked up by a freelance reporter who had been following police misconduct stories for months. As Angela sat in the back of the cruiser, her face pale, breathing shallow, the officer continued to speak into the radio, smirking. "Suspect detained, female, possibly undocumented, will question at the station." That final word, undocumented, ignited rage across the Filipino community in California. Within an hour, hospital staff, fellow nurses, local activists, and even some doctors began mobilizing. Her colleague, Dr. Kevin Simmons, a respected ER doctor and former military medic, recognized her from the video and immediately contacted internal legal teams at the hospital. "That's Angela. She saved 3 lives last night. This is outrageous." By the time Angela was taken to the precinct, hundreds had already gathered outside, chanting, live streaming, and demanding answers. Inside the holding room, Angela sat in silence, staring down at the cold metal table. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She waited. Her mind replayed every patient she had helped that night, every hand she had held. She thought of her mother, who would be terrified once the news broke. She thought of the patients who wouldn't know where she had gone, and she thought of justice, not for herself alone, but for every immigrant, every nurse, every woman of color wrongly accused. And she vowed, "This ends today. The moment the live stream ended, the footage of Officer Raymond Steele violently detaining Filipino-American trauma nurse Clarice Rivera while she stood in uniform outside JFK International Airport exploded online like wildfire. Every platform, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, echoed with disbelief. The hashtags number Justice for Clarice and number Nurse Not Threat trended globally. Within hours, over 12 million people had seen the incident, but the story wasn't just numbers and reactions. For Clarice's family, it was a nightmare unraveling in real time. Her younger brother Jordan, a third-year law student, was in class at Columbia when the video began circulating. At first, he didn't believe it, until he saw his sister's tear-streaked face and bloodied sleeve. He ran out of class and dialed their mother, Alma Rivera, who was mid-shift in a Queens nursing home. Alma didn't even finish her rounds. She fainted on the spot. By evening, civil rights attorneys were lining up to take the case. The Rivera family held a press conference outside their modest home in Brooklyn. Clarice, still shaken, sat quietly behind her attorney, surrounded by her mother and younger siblings. The crowd was massive. Local reporters, national anchors, community leaders. Everyone wanted answers. Clarice's lawyer, a sharp, composed woman named Valerie Tran, stepped up to the mic and said what the nation had been feeling all day. Being a nurse is not a crime. Being Filipino is not a threat. What happened to Clarice is not only illegal, it's un-American. The cheers were deafening. In the crowd, even NYPD officers quietly lowered their eyes. Officer Steele, meanwhile, had vanished. He had been placed on administrative leave, but his address was leaked online and protesters had gathered outside his suburban New Jersey home. His wife and son had left the house. Steele himself refused interviews, but his union scrambled to defend him, issuing a tone-deaf statement about procedural safety concerns, which only made things worse. Inside the Rivera household, Clarice was silent. She barely spoke. The bruises on her arms were healing, but the emotional scars were fresh. Her phone buzzed nonstop with messages of support, offers from strangers, fellow nurses, even celebrities. Yet none of it gave her peace. It wasn't until she opened a handwritten letter from a retired black nurse in Alabama, someone who had marched with Martin Luther King Jr., that she wept again. The letter said, "I wore my uniform with pride in a time when people spat at me. But I never stopped healing people. You're doing the same. Don't let them take your light." That letter sat beside her bed every night afterward. The investigation into Officer Steele's conduct was announced as independent and public, but Clarice's lawyer wasn't satisfied. Valerie Tran pushed for congressional attention. She arranged an interview on national TV. Clarice appeared on 60 Minutes, trembling but determined. She recounted the moment Steele grabbed her by the shoulder, threw her bag on the ground, and shoved her face first against the glass door of the terminal. She explained how she had shown her ID, her badge, her nurse's license, and how he screamed, "I don't care if you're a doctor, you people always act like you're above the law." That line hit the country hard. "You people." The phrase made headlines. It revealed everything hidden beneath Steele's uniform. After the interview aired, the hospital Clarice worked for issued a heartfelt public statement and doubled her salary. Other nurses marched in solidarity. Some even stopped work for 8 minutes and 46 seconds in protest. Schools held assemblies, churches prayed. People weren't just angry, they were transformed. But the storm was far from over. The deeper they dug into Steele's background, the darker it got. An old complaint from a black teenager in 2013 surfaced. Then a body cam video from 2017, suppressed until now, showed him threatening a Middle Eastern Uber driver. The NYPD brass was in full damage control. Commissioner Holloway issued a statement promising transparency, but even he looked shaken in the video. Behind closed doors, the mayor was fuming. With the city elections near, this scandal could be catastrophic. But the truth was too big to bury now. People wanted action, and fast. And amidst the chaos, Clarice finally made a decision. She would sue, not just for herself, but for every nurse